It's 8 o'clock. Have we opened the share screen before we jump in? And Ryan, you can go ahead and check that out. We're going to do just a couple minutes of announcements, but you can kind of figure that all out while we're doing it. But that'll give a few more minutes for people to get here into the intersection of faith, community, and civic leaders collaborating together. And we've been coming together now since the beginning of COVID. And first learning about COVID, but then going deeper and deeper, broader and broader into community collaboration, compassion, commitment, all those vitamin C's that we need in our world so desperately. What kind of announcements do we have this morning? Things that are coming up and happening. One that I have is that Sacred now has a strategic plan for 2026, and we're in it right now. And that strategic plan involves meeting weekly, virtually, at the intersection for this 30-minute or less briefing. And then on the odd number months, which January and then March are, we have Sacred has a 3-hour action lab that will focus on a much broader concern, but will be content rich and action oriented. And so last month it was on education, and many of you were there. And that has really already moved in so many different directions. Those are in person, 3 hour. In the even number months, so February is one of those. We will be meeting for 90 minutes of roundtable conversation. It's kind of like thinking about lab partners and at our lab table. So, what's been happening since our action lab in the month before? So, we'll be meeting this month at the roundtable on the 19th. And you should have all received that. But if you haven't, you could put your information into the chat and we'll make sure that you get that. The 19th of February at the downtown library, and there's free parking there, 3 to 4:30 p.m. I can say p.m. in the main conference room there. So again, that's the 19th, 3 to 4:30 p.m. At the downtown library, and we'll continue the conversation on education and where we've all come in between. So it's a lot more about networking and hearing about people taking action, both individually, collectively, both personally and professionally, and what that means. We had an example last week from one of our participants last time who's at the library and manages the little red wagon. But she talked about the action she's taken in terms of AI, but also taking the whole process of action into her team there and how what she heard impacts their work. As well as she partnered then with Sacred in offering the conference room for this next roundtable. It's 8:04. Do we have another announcement out there that we want to make sure everybody needs to hear?
Hi,
Hi.
Anne. It's
Oh,
Jane.
go ahead, Jane.
Hey, I just posted in the chat Generations Over Dinner. It's happening March 2nd. We want you all to be there. There's a registration link there. It's conversations across the generations,
Mhm.
meaningful conversations. So please join us. I don't want to take up time, but it's there. Click on the link.
Thanks, Jane. I was hoping you'd mention that. It makes me think of an article that Doug Beach sent me yesterday, and Doug can quick tell us, and he can send it. Maybe he's got a link and he can put it into chat. Highly recommend it. But the author from the New York Times kind of did this quick history of very important of culture and where we are in our world today. But the author looks at things like the Great Depression and kind of the turning points, and he's talking about today and really kind of foundationally at everything that we're doing. It's culture, right? In the broadest of sense and how that shifted. And he named our time that we're in, the potential of it all, as the great conversation. That if we stay in the conversation, in action, that's where the movement and the shifting is happening. And so,
And
yes, sir.
let me just add that it's the farewell column by David Brooks was in the New York Times on February 2nd. And it's written for a group like this. So I highly recommend it. Um, you know what? I sent it to you, so maybe you can send it out
Do
to,
that. Uh-huh.
yeah.
I'll do that. It's just, I recommend it too. I read it like 4 times because I wanted to bring it all in. So I'm now going to lob it over to our friends, all hearts on deck. One, I love the name. And we heard about this last week from Billy Cox. And when we were continuing about action and what shape that has taken, well, all hearts on deck is one of those collective actions that's afoot. So, Ryan, I hand it over to you. This is really a comfortable group, but the recording is utilized by a lot of teams, organizations who will pick up the briefing and then share it with others. So, thank you for doing this morning.
Thank you for your leadership, Anne. And you all know Jane Bassioni and her many hats, but one of those hats is being a key leader in the All Hearts on Deck campaign for the Area Foundation. Yolanda Hammond is also on the call representing GDC, which is a really expert local marketing firm who we contracted to work on this, but they put in a lot of passion and extra TLC to really make this successful. So, Yolanda, would you just say hi real quick?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm excited to be here and listen in. And Ryan, if you do need any assistance, I am here to help out with anything.
Okay, thank you. And then Jane mentioned generations over dinner. I want to underscore that. I love the great conversation framing of our era. I really love that. And generations over dinner is one really beautiful, proven format for that. And would love to have you all and your people at the table. So my name is Ryan Lugalia Hollon. I serve as the Chief Impact Officer for the San Antonio Area Foundation. And I'm a preacher's kid, so I have great respect for everyone here that is putting their faith into action on a regular basis. I think that's what it's all about. Before I get into PowerPoint mode, which can be a little soul sucking, it's good for the mind, it's bad for the soul, I think. I want to kick us off with just a poem about faith in action, if that's okay.
Lovely.
Okay, so this is a piece I wrote. It's called Gravity. Gravity.
Mhm.
Hell is no one place, no stationary furnace that awaits eon after eon more souls to broil. What meaning do you give this force, forcefully decried sermon after sermon as Sunday morning foil? Is hell the heart's harvest, left in seed packet, hardy hands that never dug deep enough to till the soil? Knees grown knobby without kneeling before they tumbled into the earthworm's toil. Hell is deeper than descent and decay. Hell is deafness to the suffering sounds beneath cardboard boxes underneath not too distant highways. Hell is sitting on our assets while tombstones rise and stained glass views fade away. Hell is silent spring, exploded dream, fallen beams of hope that once held up each new day. Hell is the heaven that we push astray.
Thank you, Ryan.
Now, hopefully that helps us survive the PowerPoint, which is kind of inevitable. But yeah, it's a joy to share. The All Hearts on Deck campaign came out of we all navigated the chaos and volatility and wild uncertainty of 2025. And that started off just at the start of the year. And the nonprofit sector was hit really hard by that. So when we saw the Area Foundation's vision is to close opportunity gaps for those who need it most. The only way we can do that is through deep partnership with our nonprofit sector. And so when we saw the sector suffering, we got together with our colleagues at United Way and at the Kronkowski Foundation and just started thinking about what can we do. We know we don't have enough money to close the gaps from federal funding cuts, but what can we do? And so we pulled together over 100 nonprofit executives to have that conversation, and they made two asks. And they said, can you help us with our organizational supports if they're thinking about new forms of collaboration, survival, merger? And then they said, can you remind the community of how important we are? And basically, and that became this messaging campaign. So All Hearts on Deck is the messaging campaign and now activation campaign that grew out of that request. And we designed it with at every turn with input from the nonprofit community. And we launched it in walking hand in hand with the sector last October. So the deck that I'm going to share is going to walk you through that. The thing that I really invite you all to listen for is, hey, is this a message that you're part of our community, whether it's your congregation, network, people, whatever else it is? Is it something they would want to hear? And if it is, then Jane and I or other qualified messengers would love to help share the word and equip you to share the word. Because the reality is, and I'll share some national data too, the attitudes have soured to those servants who are showing up every day to support the most vulnerable in our community. That's not true across the board, but it is more true than it should be. And it's scary to see that. And unfortunately, there has been some narrative harm that has been done that we need to help undo. So, any context questions before I get into slide mode?
I think we're good to go, Ryan.
Okay, cool. Here we go. All right, I'm going to come back to this what's next slide, but I like to start with action. I know this is a Zoom of people of action. And so what we're going to come back to is just how we really put this into work through the mobilization of our relationships, whether that's neighborhood associations, which we're definitely working on. We'd love to partner with faith communities in this. We're going to be working on mobilizing nonprofit boards and other constituents. So, and you can see these okay?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. So as I mentioned, this is a collaborative effort across foundations. This is our website, allheartsondeck.org. And Yolanda, if you don't mind just dropping that in the chat so people have it. And it's all about reminding people that we win together, right? We can't succumb to apathy, we can't succumb to despair, and we can't succumb to individualism, like the idea that we don't need each other, which we all know is a lie, if not a sin. And so that's really the core framing here. It is a call to action. It's an invitation for us to rally around those who serve the most vulnerable in our community, who provide all sorts of human and cultural services that we deeply need and that we often take for granted. Our goals are number one, to create awareness for people to understand that there have been real threats and disruptions to the sector. The nonprofit sector has become a sector in crisis, unfortunately, because of those disruptions. And to make the case not just for minimizing cuts, but for continuing to invest more so that when people in our community, all parts of our community have needs, that we have the infrastructure and the hearts there to be there to meet those needs. And Sacred knows all about that. And it's also to increase trust and connection. I mean, if we live in a society, if we give in to a society where our most caring and committed servants are discredited, what does that say about everything else? You know, we really have to protect those hearts that sustain our hearts. So we launched this, as I said, with the nonprofit community. The Nonprofit Council had a really great advocacy event called Essay to Essay last October. It was a week-long event with nonprofit leaders really influencing local government officials. And then we launched this intentionally on the very tail of that, so that our digital messaging campaign, which was the first part of All Hearts on Deck, really got going just as Essay to Essay was winding down. I think we had some good effect and helped to influence some city and maybe even county discussions at critical times as they think about how to navigate their tight budgets. And then this is where GDC's expertise really shined. They help us test two messages. One was we all profit from nonprofits. The other are nonprofits are not charity. So we want to help people see that nonprofits fuel, which, bring $13 billion in economic value to our community and employ tens of thousands of people, that they are core to the future and the success and the prosperity of San Antonio, and that they're an investment in San Antonio. One of the things we learned from the message testing was that when we're framing it as we all need nonprofits and they make us better, it doesn't get quite as much reach, but it got a lot more positive reception when we were framing it as a kind of counter nonprofits aren't charity, anti-waste campaign. Then it created more. We kind of got a little more of that vitriol that unfortunately is infecting some of our online discussions. Yolanda, is that a fair summary? Anything you'd add there?
No, I mean, I think they're both very strong. I think especially when you put them in the social, on our social platforms that encourages more of that conversation. That's really where we were able to get a lot of the feedback and just a little bit more context on that message number two.
Beautiful. And I think, part of the work here is connecting it with the human story. So I mentioned I'm a preacher's kid. I grew up with all the love and care in the world, and I still needed help from my nonprofits in Louisville, Kentucky to not really fall down the bad road. So I was probably 13 years old when I started making really dumb decisions. And it was our out of school time programs that really turned me and my friend group around, right? We really do all profit from nonprofits. I know we all have similar stories and have people in our family with similar stories, but those are stories that have to be lifted up right now. This is, just shows you kind of the power of the reach that happened with this campaign. Was launched in November before um, the sacredness of Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa festivals started and took some of the other attention, rightly so. And then this is the slide that I think matters most for people of action, and it's what's next. So we're taking this message to neighborhood associations. Sacred is going to play a critical role in helping us identify and activate the nonprofits that are in the geographic terrain of neighborhood associations that are most relied upon, so that we can help those residents and leaders in the associations to better understand who's serving their geography. That's something we would love to do with our faith communities. So any faith leaders on the call that are interested in that, we'd love to engage Sacred to do that same mapping and then help your people understand, okay, these are the nonprofits in our vicinity that we need to all have a shared understanding of so that we can champion their voices together. We also think there's a lot of untapped power in nonprofit boards. So I'm sure many of you on the call serve on a nonprofit board, if not two or three or four. And those boards are critically important. But one thing we don't do enough is connect them to one another to have a shared voice in support of and of the missions, which really need each other. If you just, if you took out, let's say you took out addiction services and recovery services from the nonprofit sector, or food security services, or support for the unhoused, if we lose any part of the nonprofit community, it affects everything else. We saw that last year when support for refugees was cut and was under threat. That led to a direct increase in demand, tragically, and the need for supports for those without housing. So it's very real, it's very interconnected, and that's just one of the reasons why nonprofit boards have to be able to speak with one voice, and we're working on that. So the policy goal here is to make sure that in the next city and county budget cycle, this is understood, that the local government layer doesn't double down on the damage of the federal government layer, and that we can speak up for our servants of the most vulnerable. There is a national campaign that we are also aligning with or exploring alignment with called Nonprofits Get It Done. They did some powerful research around some of that narrative harm that I talked about, where they were only researching the right side of the aisle, and from their respondents, they found, like some sticky messaging around nonprofits as a detriment, right? Imagine an after-school program, a center for older adults, center for people with disabilities, center for those who are food insecure, being seen as undermining our national priorities, right? So there's some twisted thinking that has gotten out there that is harmful to our vision at the foundation of closing opportunity gaps for those who need it most. And so we just need to remind people. And we saw some better facts in the research around messages like nonprofits play a crucial role. But even look at this last one, nonprofit organizations like the United Way, Salvation Army, Feeding America, Boys and Girls Club keep local communities strong and healthy. There was 31% disagreement with that among the Republicans polled here. So that's concerning, and that's the trend that we need to stay ahead of. And I'm almost done here, and then we'll open it back up for discussion. So there's also that narrative ties to budget and to policy and to whether or not people believe that these critical safety net services deserve our public investment. So I'll pause there. I'll go ahead and stop. But that's the tour de force on All Hearts Get It Done, and would love to discuss and see who might be up for involvement.
Well, one question I have, and so we kind of just move into a very comfortable Q&A here, Ryan.
Mhm.
So, and it's something that we really search for in this work, are specifics. So when you, in terms of action, so when you talk about mobilizing neighborhood associations, can you give one or two exact steps that you're taking to do that beyond we're going to mobilize neighborhood associations? How are you doing that?
Tobin Hill Neighborhood Association, Delview, those are two examples. Like we're gonna schedule time to go to their meetings, identify the right nonprofit leaders who serve their communities and benefit the residents and their terrain, bring them in to co-present a version of this messaging and ask the association to be champions with us in helping their council people to see how important this is. Ultimately, we want the electeds who represent those neighbors in those associations to be champions of this come budget season. That's the fight ahead of us. We think it's going to be a hard budget season at the city level and potentially at the county level. And we want our electeds to have courage and to have vision. And so it's really about recruiting members of those neighborhood associations to speak up with us.
Mm-hmm. Good. I see Doug has his hand up. Doug?
Just a quick question. Of the slides you showed, I'm looking at your website. I don't see them. Can you make those available?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send in. So are you talking about the data slides near the end?
Yeah.
So that wasn't our research. That was research from the National Nonprofit Council, and I'll definitely share that with Ann.
Thank you.
Other thoughts, questions for Ryan? What we heard. Let's look into chat and see if we have anything there. Can you please provide a link for the two slides? That was there from Susan. I'm very excited about this effort. And I'm always wondering about partnerships and collaborations and moving this forward. There's so many really strategic intentions that are happening right now, and this being one of them, right? That force of collaboration and working together and moving this information out there. I think too, like what Sacred is doing for this year in terms of community gatherings, in person every month, virtual every week, and being that great conversation, but that connection point of working together. I do know of another project that's coming into town. I mean, it's starting now, but in terms of social connectedness, and especially with people that are 60 and better. So, I mean, my mind is thinking, how do we connect those? Because the route of getting the information out and engagement is kind of the same.
Mm-hmm.
So that connection with neighborhood associations and the larger community, it's one thing. It's like, how do we get the best of the movement out there at the same time and work together, as opposed to we just take those three things instead of working them separately.
Yep.
They all work together, and we know that. I don't have the answer. I just have that big question.
Well, two thoughts that jump out at me. One is language, the other is action, right? So if let's say people have their own program strategies or convening strategies or whatever it is, but if we can all unite around a message like we all profit from nonprofits and we can all help that message to get sticky rather than nonprofits are wasteful or other messages that have been put out there. I think that would be one thing. And then when it comes time to really show up at city council meetings, for example, and advocate, can we all converge in those critical moments?
Mhm. Yeah, can we have that great collaboration that
Yeah,
comes out of the great conversation, right? That will produce some great action.
100%. And I
Yeah.
think Jane's going to model the way on March 2nd at the Generations Over Dinner event, and we'll be shouting out the All Hearts on Deck work and helping to mobilize the room there. So that's one of our own efforts on creating
Mhm.
that internal alignment.
We've seen so much effort and intentionality in this last year towards more involvement and engagement with the younger generation. And so that five generation concept
Mhm.
is just so critical. I mean, critical. It's not just a good idea, a nice, it's critical.
Mhm. 100%.
Yeah.
And
Other
yeah,
thoughts or questions, which is always a good sign too, Ryan, that you explained it well.
I don't know. But I don't see any hands raised. Who's in? Who's ready to go?
Who's ready to go?
Let's go. All right, Jeanette.
Jeanette's ready. So, and if we all show up on March, that'll help a lot.
Absolutely. Well,
So,
but to your point about generations, Ann, I remember hearing a environmental justice leader years ago say, if I knew that I couldn't win these campaigns in my generation, I would have done everything differently. Just like recognizing like we're not going to get to the promised land, before we say goodbye, So how do we really link arms with each generation to get there?
and it's also for some of us who've been in it like for decades,
Yeah.
we are very fortunate and blessed, right? At times to see things that have moved.
Mm-hmm.
Like look at that,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But we're not
100%.
going to see all of it,
Yep.
right? And it's that recognition of where the work continues. And so that whole five generations or what, that is so critical. So,
Absolutely.
Peter, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, Anne. And thank you, Ryan. I just want to applaud the work. Really love the targeted way you're approaching it. And Jane, thanks for bringing it last week into our attention, into our scope. Uh, I'm working on the southwest part of San Antonio, and that collaboration between neighborhood associations, and there's two in our area. It's the Southwest, it's Quintana community. There's two neighborhood associations, and in the past they've kind of rivaled because their borders overlap. One
Mm-hmm.
is recognized, one isn't. But we've been able to bridge that together with community
Wow.
working together, faith and business, and we've got a project that's working where, like next week, Tuesday, is their neighborhood association meeting for the main, the Quintana community. And we've got a grant that we've factored into that revitalization project. So we've got businesses coming to learn about the grant. But it's so intertwined with all these other two nonprofits that are there in the community that I'm really supporting and really trying to build capacity with. And so I could see the value of being able to showcase the work as you tie it into linking and leveraging. So I use that term consistently, how we can continue to link and leverage the support for those that are doing the work very intentionally with others, collaboratively, but very focused in the community. And so I love to connect with you all and see how we can coordinate in the future with those two neighborhood associations and the project that we've got there, because I love that endorsement of the building capacity and empowering the nonprofits. And of course, that just kind of bleeds out. And the faith community is also involved in the process. With New Life Christian Center, elder there. And so connecting community with faith is my work.
That's amazing, Peter. Yeah, we're just trying to catch up with what you're already doing on the Southwest side. Essentially, you're building all the connections. I put my email in the chat, rlugalia-hollon at saafdn.org. If you would email me and then I'll loop in Yolanda and we'll get it scheduled. We absolutely want to come out and connect.
Yeah, thank you. Great work. Boy, that's such a timely time to be advocating in this way to build the capacity in those nonprofits. So thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
and thank you for your leadership.
Peter really is doing the work on
Mhm.
the ground and connecting all the folks in the diverse community together. So I want to commend Peter's effort. We all need to go visit what Peter's doing and replicate it, take it home, and tweak it because we have to. Ours is a city of many cultures, and so we've got to tweak the efforts. But basic human collaboration is the research that tells us that that's how the shifts are made. And there's a lot of research out there on collaboration, and we've had that conversation here before that even debunks the survival of the fittest, that the reason our species is still alive is because we've been working together, and that story isn't told, that narrative. So any other thoughts and questions? We're at 8:31. And Ryan, we tend to stay, some of us, until a quarter till. But thank you. We're not signing off yet. If you need to, that's fine. But thank you for giving us kind of the meat of it all before 8:30. You did an excellent job, and I'm grateful for that. But some of us linger on until quarter till just to continue the conversation. So any who wish to stay, you can. If you've come today for this and need to go, thank you for being with us. And we'll see you again next week at the intersection. Bill has his hand up.
Yes, thanks. So Ryan, great work, and we're excited to be part of this campaign. I want to mention this other program that I personally and Billy Cox and I personally have been involved in, which is called the Masters Leadership Program, which has been around for about 25, 23 years, something like that. So this is a program that is the intention of the program is to take individuals who have more control over their schedules. So that's the term master, and that, so we can all know what that stands for. But the people that have more control over their schedule go through this program, and it's a 10-part cohort that allows them to go throughout the city and experience nonprofits in all manner of sectors, whether it be education, military support, environmental and energy, arts and culture, and Sacred is actually the co-sponsor of the Human Services Day along with Avita over at Rise Recovery, and we're meeting next Thursday actually, and we're going to do a full day run of what the human service nonprofit sector in San Antonio looks like. And the premise of our day that we've scheduled, that Avita and I put together, is nonprofits are not charity, and we landed on that phrase back in September or so when we started planning our day. So we're excited to do that, and we're going to do a top to bottom view of why a society should invest in taking care of itself, and that includes the people that maybe need a little bit of help to take care of themselves as well. So our focus will be human service on nonprofits, but it's a great program. I encourage anybody that wants to look at a way to get involved in this nonprofit work. This program MLP teaches governance of nonprofits, but it's a great. Aside from that, it is such a tremendous view of your city. You will learn more in 10 days than you will in on your own in 5 years. So I encourage everybody to take a look at it. The applications are open now, so I'll stop at that.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, that's been going on. It's been doing some significant work across the years. How do we tell that narrative? That is another big question. Because there is a very large narrative within San Antonio that makes it San Antonio and who we are. People are often, like, what is that San Antonio thing? But it's this long thread of community working together. But you kind of got to get in the thread to know that it even exists, let alone the history telling of it. And how can we do that narrative? San Antonio's response, for example, to the race riots in the 60s was very different than the rest of the country. And the faith community stepped up, and they did their own lunch counters, sit-ins, but a very different way, that we eat together in every restaurant. So Martha Ann has her hand up.
everybody on this call. Thank you. I feel like I'm benefiting. Um, Two of my religion students at the University of the Incarnate Word in 2013, one of them a Guatemalan, they married, and a couple of years ago, they decided to open up a nonprofit in an indigenous village where 69% of the children are malnourished and there's no preschool. And then they came back to me and they said, Sister, we're doing what you taught us to do. Will you help us now? And I feel sort of like I don't know what I'm doing, but so far, we have business students at the University of the Incarnate Word who sell the handicrafts, the jewelry and little things. And it's a good thing for the business students. And so far, we've had some community health students, we've had nutrition students. We take them to Guatemala, and they have these really intense 2 week experiences. And so the nonprofit is recognized both in Texas and in Guatemala. And we've never even made a strategic plan. So I was like, I treat Edwin and Darlene like they're still my students. You need to make a strategic plan. This needs to get more structure and organization so we can keep growing. So I really appreciate things you're saying, Ryan, and things that um, Bill has been saying of the value of nonprofits for everyone. And this nonprofit can help our university students learn and grow. Am I making sense?
Yes. Yes. Sometimes it's like that, right? When you start to see how things connect in your head and then it comes out of your mouth and you go, did that make sense? Sure made sense in my head. So yes, it made sense. Other thoughts or questions at 8:38? Again, as always, I encourage everyone. Normally this recording is posted, well, it's always posted by Monday of next week. And sometimes it's just even yet today, but this recording will be posted. And I'm sure Bill will put that link into chat as well, that Sacred at the Intersection. And to utilize, if nothing else, just the part of where Ryan was going over how, all hearts on deck and what that looks like. And to utilize that with your teams that you work with, at your nonprofit organization, at your congregation. Maybe it's an adult forum or something. Your stewardship, team, whatever that might be called, but that engaging within the community to utilize that recording. And we've got, full list of those kinds of recordings. So always use that spot as a place to go, as a really valuable resource of teaching our community, connecting our community of what's really going on out there that we don't hear about often enough. I tell anybody new into the city who calls me, especially clergy, and they're like, so I'm new here, I'm trying to figure the place out, and go there. Just scroll and, pick, content that you're interested in, whether it's food insecurity or whatever that list might be. And you'll get the rhythm, go in about 5 or 8 minutes and start listening to that content. And suddenly you'll have people you can connect with. You'll have names and content and strategies and intentionality. So, valuable resource. Other thoughts, questions? Oh, Sammy, your hand's up.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Yeah, I just wanted to say that we finally, the other day, had probably about 8 people from SJRC, the St. Jude's Ranch for Children, show up to our 1616 campus to sign the MOU with them. Matter of fact, we're going to be helping them a lot with their foster cases out in these rural areas that involved indigenous children because they don't follow the laws of America, but follow under the laws of the tribal nation in which they're under. So we're going to be helping them a lot with that. Also, in bringing our services out to the rural areas. Matter of fact, our statistics for 25 came back, and last year we exceeded giving away over 500,000 diapers. We did over something like 16,000 mentoring hours. So we're going to start building pilot offices in the rural areas starting this year. Patrick, here you go. Patrick just said something. I wish you were there, Patrick. I was hoping you were going to show up, but none of you guys showed up. But yeah, plenty of representation, so it was good. And then tomorrow I'm going to San Antonio College for something that they're doing about working with college kids. And then on Saturday, I'm heading out to Pearsall to the El Mercado to start planting seeds there for when we start opening up our pilot office there. So I got some representatives there. I'm going to meet like 7 CPS agents from about 4 counties on Saturday. I just want to build things, and the only way to build things is to collaborate. And if all we're going to do is talk and not doing any work, then nothing's going to get done. But, I'm off on Friday and I'm off on Saturday. But, I have this massive burning desire to really get shit done, and it means I have to do it, outside of my 40 hours a week. So be it, but I'm going to get it done. Um, when I say, and I'm one of those people who truly walk the walk, if I talk it, I'm going to walk it. And I just realized, I just celebrated my 8th year at the San Antonio Father Campaign just 4 days ago on February 1st. And to see where we've gone and the growth that we've had, since the 8 years that I've been here, from me being the only facilitator to now we have 10, and, we having just 5 classes, now we have 40. And, it's just been an insane, incredible transformation of a very small nonprofit organization. I got there 8 years ago that had already been around for 18 years, just to see the direction in which we're going. And it all has to do with collaborating, and the getting us out into the next to the 27 counties over the next 2 3 years is going to be vital, not only to our growth, but I think to extending to these rural areas, something that's been lacking for decades. So we're going to be the ones that go out there and put it down, man. So like I said, once I get out there, once we get established, anybody wants to come along and be part of the satellite office, or I can hopefully set up a satellite office for these people that we're going to work with. Let me know. We'll do some more moving and shaking.
Perfect example of, we do get to see, if our eyes are open, we do get to see where the change is happening. So, now you have 40 times and offerings, and it was 0 at one point, right? So we do get to see, and those stories need to be told. So it's 8:43. It's a gorgeous day outside. And so go out and get some vitamin D, if only for 5 minutes, right? It's important. And drink some liquid oxygen, drink some water today. I know that sounds trite, but it's not. We're humans. And so recognizing that we're all in this together, but we need to take care of each of ourselves. And that's one of the things the community does. So I love all of you. You have great weekends, and we'll see each other next Thursday at the intersection.
Can I mention one more thing, Ann?
Sure can, Sammy.
Just want to let y'all know that this week, this month, when February started, we're doing our project, Early in the Lake Project 5.0, this is the 5th year in a row that I have 17 students actually in my live classes, observing our work and observing, the participation of the clients and that are in the classes. And I'm hoping, we have the same type of results as we did in the last 4. Like I said, I've become a published author because of this work that we do with the university. Last year, we had a research paper done on our work with the university, and we're just continuing to try to make it bigger and better so that the experience for the students is much better, so they can really decide, if this is what they want to do. Some people, after being in spending a whole month with me, they go to Dr. Catherine Annis and they say, what, I don't know if I really want to do this work. It's a lot tougher, than I thought. In class, you talk about this stuff, but to see it, oh, I don't know. And then a lot of them go to get counseling, which is good too. So it's been so many blessings in the last 5 years of working with Our Lady of the Lake University, and I'm really looking forward to working with other universities in San Antonio because I've been approached by about like 2, 3 different provosts for some of these uh, uh, 2-year universities to go and talk to them and see about doing some work with them as well and putting them into the live classes that we have to give them an idea of this is what you're going to be doing. When you walk that stage, this is what you choose to do. So always a blessing.
Yeah. We've got a lot of people in this screen who are walking the talk. So thank you all. Have great days, and we'll see you next week.
Okay. Thanks,
Bye.
Ann. Bye.